chills.
Number 6. From Mars with Love. In 2012, a 2,000-pound robot named Curiosity smashed onto the surface of Mars for the first time. This was NASA's big opportunity to explore the red planet from a ground perspective instead of using satellite probes, and they had spent over $2.5 billion to construct a machine that was strong enough to make it happen. Curiosity's mission was not only to map Mars, but also to find clues that would help scientists figure out what the environment may have looked like in the past. The last thing the scientists expected to find was possible evidence of current life on Mars, but that's exactly what happened. It was 2014, just 2 years into the mission. At this point, Curiosity had only covered a total of 4 miles at a snail's pace, but this slow progress was actually to be expected. The vast distance between Earth and Mars meant that the robot took a long time to receive movement orders, and the NASA team was also being extremely slow and careful with their expensive piece of equipment. As far as the research team was concerned, they were just as happy the robot had not toppled over yet or stopped receiving messages within 5 minutes of landing. Lasting 2 years on the planet was a remarkable feat that exceeded their expectations. The sturdy little navigator robot was examining space rocks at a new site named Kimberly when it took 2 pictures in particular that contained something quite curious. These 2 pictures, each taken one day apart, clearly show a bright column of white light shining from a hilltop in the distance. The faraway beam is unmistakable against the barren and rocky landscape. It is so small yet so out of place even for Mars. These raw images may have been overlooked by the government entirely if not for the general public, who were quick to notice them on NASA's website. Many people were sure that the white light was an alien beacon to either warn or welcome the navigator robot, while others believe it to be a UFO that was either in the process of landing or getting ready to take off. Some even believed that NASA knew of these images already, but they were hoping that the public wouldn't notice them too. It's too far away to tell for sure, but something definitely appears to be happening out of the horizon. NASA first suggested that this light was a result of a camera glitch, but when the Huffington Post asked them to explain further, they quickly switched their explanation to cosmic ray. Cosmic rays are basically particles of energies from explosions deep within the universe. They can cause radiation poisoning if they come into contact with astronauts. The only problem is no one really knows what a cosmic ray looks like, so many people are unsatisfied by this official explanation. They believe this is a cover-up story for something bigger. What's really weird is that this strange light is only captured on one of the navigator's 2 cameras. On the left camera you can see the bright light in both pictures, and on the right camera there is no light at all. This may prove that this is an equipment malfunction like NASA says, but Curiosity is still on the planet taking pictures, so why has this glitch never been repeated again? Either way, when you consider that this is the same robot that found evidence of a dried up lake on Mars earlier in 2012, then maybe life does exist on that planet, and maybe the photos really are evidence of some sort of alien technology in action. If the strange light really is a beacon or some other kind of alien activity, it is still far enough away that it would literally take years for Curiosity to reach and investigate. Until then, the public will just have to keep speculating. Number 5. Russell Crowe and the UFO. You may have enjoyed Russell Crowe's Hollywood performances in movies such as Gladiator and A Beautiful Mind, but do you remember the one where he sees a UFO while watching for fruit bats? Probably not. That's because it's not really a movie, but it's what happened in 2013 when the actor visited his office overlooking the Sydney Botanic Gardens in Australia. It was there that Russell Crowe had set up a camera to record from his office in hopes of catching some of the winged critters in flight. When he checked the tapes the next day, he was shocked to find not bats but a UFO flying across the screen. "These are real," he writes in a video that he later posted on YouTube. The time-lapse footage shows a flat neon disc zip across the screen from right to left at a high rate of speed. The inside of the disc itself is bright white, but the edges are deep red. There also appears to be a pale red tractor beam that extends from the body of the saucer all the way to the ground. At the bottom of the beam, right where it touches the ground, the color switched to a bright white with a gold trim. On his verified Twitter account, Russell Crowe explains that the pictures were taken with a Canon 5D camera that had no flash. He explains that there is no way for the UFO to be a lens flare because the camera is in a fixed position, yet the object moves rapidly. Whether or not the UFO is real is yet to be fully determined, but one thing is for sure. Russell Crowe thinks aliens visited him in Australia. Number 4. Chills in Chile. On November 5th, 2010, multiple cameras all recorded UFO activity at an Air Force show in Chile. 7 videos in total caught the exact same thing from 7 different angles, a UFO operating in plain sight. With so many different eyewitness accounts, this incident is one of the few times a government organization actually acknowledged the presence of UFOs and offers absolutely no cover-up story. In the videotapes, fighter pilots are flying overhead in a tight formation on a clear day. Everything seems to be going as planned when suddenly a smaller object moving at an impossible rate of speed approaches them from the right side and darts past. There is absolutely no time for the jets to react before the UFO is out of sight. Had this been an attack, it would have been unlike anything the Chilean force had ever had to contend with. Instead, the UFO seems to peacefully go on its way. When the footage is paused, the UFO appears to be about 1/3 the size of any of the fighter crafts. It also has a dark metallic body with a lighter upper half, perhaps even a glass pod of some kind. Instead of denying this ever happened like most governments seem to like to do, the government of Chile has fully embraced these events for what they are. Strange, unexplainable, and worthy of further investigation. The Chilean Air Force even started an organization called CEFAA in 1997, which stands for the Study of Anomalous Aerial Phenomena. This is an actual international organization that governments join so that they can share UFO information with each other. Other participants include France, Uruguay, New Zealand, and even the USA. The CEFAA consists of leading astronomers, physicists, geographers, engineers, and other specialists from around the world, and they have all verified the legitimacy of this footage in particular. The director of the CEFAA even said that this is a rare instance of a UFO demonstrating a, quote, intelligent maneuver, as it comes into close contact with the Air Force fleet and narrowly avoids hitting them. Even though this footage has been verified, there is no way to tell what exactly this UFO's intentions were as it flew by. Some suggest that it was surveying the aerial capabilities of mankind as a way of monitoring our technological process as a species. Others, however, think that the UFO was flaunting its superior speed, steering and technology right in our faces, just basically rubbing it right in. After all, if you were some sort of alien race looking to make another species feel bad, an air show would be a good place to drive your point home. Maybe they had enough of our slow driving and were showing us what a real aircraft can do in the right hands. Number 3, off the beaten trail. Rainer and Edith Shaddles own a 150-acre plot of land in Jackson, Mississippi that they have even rigged with motion-activated cameras to observe local deer and whatever else happens to walk by. One winter, as they checked the previous night's footage expecting to see some wildlife, they were as shocked as Russell Crowe to find a UFO instead. Everything on the tape appeared normal at first. It was a 49-degree night and the weather was clear. Deer began to trickle in at 7:24 p.m. Within 5 minutes, however, the animals were all cast in a strange light. They didn't necessarily seem alarmed, but they do stop what they're doing to stare up at the sky. The infrared camera that the Shaddles used does not need an external light, so that means the source of the white glow was coming from somewhere off camera. The light begins to intensify as the minutes pass. The deer all remain in place the whole time. After about a half an hour, the UFO finally reveals itself. The native scenery is washed in an unnaturally bright light as an object hovers overhead, studying the deer below. It's unlike anything the Shaddles had ever seen before, far different than a car or anything else. For one, its lights are up high in the air, and two, there is no roadway in the private acreage for a car to easily get through. The deer are completely transfixed by the lights and stand frozen in place. After observing the deer for about 10 minutes, the UFO grows tired of them and moves on. After Rainer reviewed the footage, he immediately headed to the clearing to investigate. However, he could find no tire tracks or any other signs of a disturbance. How could this be, he wondered. After Rayner reviewed the footage, he immediately headed to the clearing to investigate. However, he could find no tire tracks or any other signs of a disturbance. How could this be, he wondered. The vehicle in the videotape was quite large and should have left something behind, yet not a single twig was out of place.
56, another sharper light appears. Then it gets much closer, seemingly focused on the deer. It looks like headlights, but well off the ground and there's no road. Then it flies away. Rayner takes me to the site deep in the woods. These are the trees where the object appeared.
Number 2. Freaking out the French. In 2014, France saw 18 UFOs between the months of October and November. Though the incidents were scattered throughout the entire country, they all had one disturbing trend in common. The UFOs were only appearing around power plants and nowhere else. One of these encounters was caught on film in northeast France, and it is especially alarming. In this eyewitness footage, a UFO is seen racing towards two smokestacks as they billow nuclear pollution. The UFO appears to be quite large and menacing as it disappears behind the smoke and re-emerges shortly after. The UFO itself looks oddly shaped as well, almost as if two mountaintops had been slapped together. Its lights blink in strange patterns that do not resemble any human aircraft, and the way it moves is particularly bizarre too. It shoots ahead in a steady straight line that does not seem affected by wind or any other natural laws of physics. The government of France was understandably alarmed by these sightings and vowed to take the appropriate actions to stop it. The French Secretary General of Defense and National Security downplayed the threat in a public press statement, but at the same time said the country needs to develop a way to detect these, quote, small aircraft and intercept them immediately. Judging by these words, it sounds like the French government was at least a little concerned. As with most other UFO encounters, the government was also quick to provide an explanation other than alien activity. This time, France blamed anti-nuclear protesters, who they thought were using drones to demonstrate how vulnerable nuclear energy is to terrorist attack. However, no activist group has stepped forward to accept the credit, which seems highly suspicious to many. Instead, many believe that aliens are to blame, and the French government made up the whole activist using drones story as a way to keep the general public from going into a widespread panic. The closest any official has ever come to admitting aliens were the cause was when one of the directors of a French nuclear power plant stepped forward to confirm that whatever flew over his plant was certainly not a drone. He offered no explanation as to what else it could have been, but still he said, it definitely could have not been a drone. Many UFO supporters believe aliens were observing the nuclear power plants as a way of keeping tabs on the French government, and also on human pollution levels in general. Others think that this was an obvious warning from extraterrestrials directed at the French government to stop them from using nuclear power. The next time they show up at France's power plants, many people believe the aliens will not be so peaceful. Number 1. The 2012 Galactic Olympics. Perhaps no other UFO encounter is surrounded by more controversy than what happened at the 2012 London Olympics. But here's a quick rundown of the basics. During the massive fireworks display of the opening ceremony, a gigantic and creepy UFO slowly makes its looming grand entrance across the screens of thousands of home viewers. It's almost as if the large gray object is deliberately looking for attention as it towers over the fireworks and travels at a slow rate of speed. Looking at the video, you can feel a sense of unease as the UFO lurks above the international games. This time, it took 3 full days for an official explanation to surface. A spokesperson for Goodyear said it had to use its Goodyear blimp to cover the games for the NBC network. However, since Goodyear was not an official sponsor for the Olympics, they were forced to remove their logo. What people were seeing, the spokesperson insisted, was a gray Goodyear blimp that did not have its traditional logo. This sounds like a good explanation except for one thing. The British government had already predicted aliens would visit us during the games. Well, at least one former government official did in particular. His name is Nick Pope, and he worked in the Ministry of Defense from 1985 all the way until 2006, when he parted ways with the agency to become a freelance journalist. From 1991 to 1994, he spent 3 years doing nothing but investigating official reports of UFOs for the government. With all of that said, Nick's opinions on these matters is not to be taken lightly. Earlier that month, in July of 2012, he had said at a conference that the Olympic Games would be a good place for aliens to make their presence known, if they had any understanding of human psychology. A short while later, the UFO appears over the Olympics. This is not the only coincidence either. Shortly before the UFO sighting, Tony Blair held a meeting with the Ministry of Defense over classified UFO information. He was concerned about UFO reports being released to the public under the Freedom of Information Act, which forced the government to release certain documents when asked. Apparently, he was particularly worried about a 6,700-page report that documented every encounter with UFOs over the past 3 decades. While one could only wonder what out-of-this-world mysteries that document contains, the main point is, why was Tony Blair even thinking about UFOs at the time? Many people have concluded that aliens were trying to make their presence known at the 2012 Olympic Games, and the world governments did their best to cover it up with the logoless Goodyear blimp story. Whether or not this is what really happened, the aliens will just have to try even harder to get our attention next time. Thanks for checking out this video. Please consider subscribing because we upload a new scary countdown every week. My name is Chills, and my Twitter is at YTChills, and my Instagram is at DylanIsChillinYT. I'd really appreciate a follow, and feel free to send me a DM if you have any comments or suggestions. See ya. Chills. Number 10, Ghost Jail. A YouTuber named Junked Up Kitten and his friends are exploring an old county jail. They take a video camera with them so that they can make a parody of the Ghost Hunters television series. Little did the small group know that on this night they would accidentally capture actual evidence of real ghosts. Junked Up Kitten wanders around the property with the camera close to his face while narrating. He passes by an ordinary looking jail cell window and doesn't think much of it at the time. When he goes back to review the footage later, he makes a startling discovery in the window. It looks like his parody show has turned out to be the real thing. From the other side of the glass, the colorless reflection of a man's face stares at him. You can clearly see the outline of the ghost's brow, nose, and empty eyes. His head is cocked to the right, almost as if he is sizing up a newcomer. His mouth appears to be a thin, expressionless line. If anything, the ghost has incredible timing. Right when Junked Up Kitten says that he is looking for evidence of ghosts, one just happens to show up in the window. It's almost as if the ghost was trying to make its presence known. Perhaps it was even trying to get a hold of someone who could free it from its miserable cell. Number 9, Restaurant Spooks. Most people think of houses, hospitals, or jails when they think about ghost sightings, but some of the most unsuspecting of places can turn out to be the most haunted. This footage was taken in a popular food joint during broad daylight. A shadowy ghost suddenly materializes in a Subway restaurant. It starts out in the shape of a human and almost appears to be getting a table. When it gets back to its seat, the black shadow suddenly changes into a floating black blob of an orb. At this point, an employee, or maybe a customer, appears to see the ghost in the doorway. Whoever they are, they look stunned for a second and then quickly back away. The shadow orb pays no attention to the human as it floats up to the window and lingers there. It's almost as if it's taking a look at the outside world. The ghost starts to rise even higher and shrinks until it fully disappears back to wherever it came from. Number 8, the Ghost Stadium. Ghosts don't have to wait until nighttime before they can begin to haunt. As this Brazilian soccer footage shows, the crowd is happily cheering on their favorite team when suddenly a shadow ghost starts sprinting through all of them. Look closely and you'll notice how nobody tries to move out of the way. Even though a person is clearly running full speed at them, not a single person tries to pull their legs in or even bothers to look up. They are so concentrated on the game that they do not see, feel, or hear the ghost as it runs directly through the half-filled stadium in a straight line. Number 7, Fridge Ghost. A YouTuber named No Ghost Hunter grows tired of living in a haunted home and decides to videotape the disturbances for evidence. It's a little past midnight when he hears scratching noises. which soon progresses into running footsteps and loud bangs. These noises appear to be coming from all different areas of the home at once. The next day, his HD TV literally begins rocking violently from side to side all by itself. The rocking motion picks up speed until the corners of the TV are almost hitting the entertainment center, and it looks like the base is going to break. Then the TV starts rocking back and forth the other way. There is nobody behind the television, and there's no way they could have been using strings to do this. The day after, No Ghost Hunter finds a short video on his phone that he is 100% sure he did not make. The video is shot from the ground level of his kitchen. When you look at the reflection in the oven, you can see that nobody is holding the phone. The phone is literally floating in midair. Additional footage shows the TV shaking by itself again. This time, No Ghost Hunter is able to film behind the television to show that this is not a prank at all. He waves his hand above the television to show that there's no wires, and he even films underneath the base to show that there is no rod coming out from the entertainment center or anything like that. The lights cut out multiple times while he films. A few days later, he captures his refrigerator door slamming open and closed again and again. The brazen poltergeist leaves the door open to make sure its presence is fully known. Number 6. Watched from above. A group of British friends are playing catch in a courtyard when one of them sees something strange and points it out to the others. The camera follows his gaze and stops on a pale face looking at them from high above. The sickly person looks at them for a second longer before silently slipping out of view. The group is now creeped out and wants to know who has been spying on them this whole time. They tell the property manager about the face they saw in the window, but she says that it's impossible. The room they are talking about has been locked and unoccupied for quite some time. The manager goes up with them to unlock the door and show them around. They try and find the person, but the place is completely empty. There's no way anyone could have been up there, yet the camera obviously says differently. The mysterious peeper has never been identified. Number 5. Old Pete's Ghost. There's a famous pub in Sydney, Australia called the Carlisle Castle Hotel. For years, this local watering hole has been haunted by the ghost of Old Pete, a bitter ex-employee who left the earth quite some time ago, but not his job. His ghostly antics have been caught on camera no less than 3 times. The first time Pete was caught on tape, he was helping a customer. The unsuspecting man opens the door to the cooler when Pete decides to grab 2 bottles of red wine for himself. His ghost grip must have not been too tight though, because both bottles go crashing to the floor. Looking at the footage, there's no way that the shelf gave out or anything like that. The bottles were thrown to the ground with deliberate force with no one nearby. Another incident occurred when the bar was full of witnesses. Everyone is happily enjoying themselves when a hanging red wine glass suddenly dislodges itself and smashes into the counter. Glass shards fly everywhere and the entire bar takes notice. Although this could have simply been a freak accident, what are the chances that, of all the red wine glasses, the one that's directly underneath the server happens to be the one to fall and break? The timing is almost too perfect to be a coincidence. Old Pete strikes again. The third and final tape reveals a glimpse of Old Pete himself. The bar is empty this time when the angry ghost suddenly materializes in front of the security camera. If you look closely, you can make out Old Pete's head at the bottom of the screen. He appears to be waving. Many other bartenders and customers all claim to have seen Old Pete for themselves in one way or another. It isn't uncommon for tapes to turn on by themselves, and the bartenders have seen what they can only describe as strange things while counting down their registers after close. To make this all even stranger, all of the bottles that go crashing to the floor are always high-end red wines. This just so happened to be Old Pete's favorite drink, at least when he was still with the living. Number 4. The Church Disturbance. Steve and Jake are wandering around the woods one summer night with a single goal in mind. They want to explore an abandoned local chapel that's rumored to be haunted. As they approach, they see that someone has written prayers and warnings all over the outside wall. The 2 friends instantly get a bad feeling about this adventure, but they swallow their fear and decide to press on. The rickety main door is locked, so they sneak around back. Already, they don't want to be here much longer. They had explored an old clock tower earlier in the day and were greatly disappointed by a lack of paranormal activity, but they could tell this church is way different. The place looked and felt quite haunted. They go up some wooden steps and enter through the back door. They shine their flashlights deep into the church's main assembly. There's rows and rows of wooden pews ahead of them. They pass by a podium and notice a piano. Then they head deeper inside. Now they find themselves inside of a small maintenance closet. They close the door behind them because they don't want anyone sneaking up on them. It feels like anyone could be watching them right now. They see a ladder to the left. Steve is about to climb it until Jake jokes that a body is going to fall down on him if he does, so he decides not to. That's when the piano starts to play from outside.
Oh man. Oh my god, turn on the floor. Listen. Oh shit, that's fucking piano. Is that piano? Hold on. Should we go out there? Is that door open?
It's a soft and haunting piano melody that fills the church. Steve and Jake shut off their flashlights and keep recording. They debate whether or not they should go outside or stay here, where it's semi-safe. They realize that they can't spend the entire night trapped in the broom closet of a haunted church, so they turn their flashlights back on to see who is playing. Sitting at the piano at the far end of the room is a black hunched over phantom. They scream and shut the door. Jake cries for a bit, then they run away through the back exit. The music stops as soon as they leave the church. They were hoping that the music stopped because it was over, but in reality, it was because the ghost had gotten up from the piano to chase them. They run a good distance before pausing to look back into the dark scenery. It seems like they've gotten away, but then the ghost finds them and they run away screaming. The camera cuts off as they fall back deeper into the woods. At least one of them survived and uploaded this video onto YouTube, where it's remained for the past 10 years. Number 3, the teleporter. Two girls are alone in their house when one of them sees something in the doorway. Pause the video and you can see it's clearly the upper half of a young girl who is dressed in old-fashioned clothes from another time period. She is floating in midair as she curiously peeks in on the two children to see what they are doing. One of the girls still doesn't see the ghost. She shouts at something that's on television and accidentally startles the ghost away. The girl with the camera follows the ghost as it retreats. The ghost instantly teleports and now stares at them from the top of the steps. The scared girls run out of the house screaming. They stop only for a second to turn around from the street. They can see the ghost girl walking across the left window on the top floor. It vanishes and then suddenly appears on the bottom floor in less than a second. They scream even louder and take off again. Number 2, stay out of the attic. Back in 2008, a man started to notice some strange activities around his house. He would often come home from work to find his dogs cowering under the bed, too afraid to come out. One of his dogs would only come out from under the bed for a brief 10 seconds at most before going straight back into hiding. Something was intimidating these large dogs badly. The owner starts to hear banging noises coming from all over his house. He begins to look around. He eventually traces the noise to his attic and goes upstairs with a camera for a closer look. Everything is completely trashed. Boxes are overturned and clothing is scattered everywhere. Something has violently flung all of his personal possessions all around. As soon as he goes back downstairs, he hears another huge bang and runs right back up the steps. He puts the camera down and searches the empty attic for clues. A nearby metal bucket falls over and he runs out of the room before he gets hurt. Another object hits the ground on its own and the camera moves to the right on its own too. The homeowner was too scared to look at the footage. He waited a week before going back upstairs to get his camera. By now, he is understandably quite paranoid. He begins recording everything he does in his home, and it isn't long before he has more paranormal evidence. One day, his radio turns to static and a spirit orb rushes out the window. Later, someone violently jiggles the doorknob to the door that leads to the attic. The door opens and shuts by itself. The radio goes back to normal soon after. Things look to be going back to normal for a second, but then a paper towel roll suddenly flies up from the table to the couch, and the radio starts making more sounds again. The video recording starts to get fuzzy too, as if a ghost is causing electrical disturbances by passing by. Both of his dogs begin to look in the same spot as if they are following something. Whatever it was, the man was never able to physically catch it on film. He was only able to record its strange and oftentimes violent behaviors. Before we get to number 1, if you've ever been curious as to what I look like in real life, then follow me on Instagram at DylanIsChillinYT with underscores instead of spaces. I also have a Twitter at YT_chills where I post video updates. I'd really appreciate it if you followed me, and feel free to send me a DM if you have any questions or suggestions. If you'd like to see more of these videos in the future, then hit that subscribe button because I upload a new scary video every Thursday. Number 1, Ghoul School. This footage comes from somewhere in the Middle East. A group of teenagers are curiously exploring an old school. They go up a flight of steps and pause when they hear a dog whining on the other side of the door. They all run down the steps and gather at the bottom. They're afraid of being attacked by a group of stray dogs now, but they decide to press on and explore the lower areas. The group finds bravery in their numbers and begins to joke and laugh again as they make their way down a long hallway. They open a door and find graffiti on the wall. Other people had been here before them. Maybe this place isn't so bad after all. The teens grow a little more nervous as they continue to poke around. They are laughing less and starting to go silent. Something just isn't right about this section of the building. A YouTuber named Zabin Jaguar translated their comments. He says at this point one of the teens say that their phone shut itself off even though it was fully charged only a moment ago. Another person was able to keep recording, though they probably now wish they hadn't. They enter one classroom in particular and get a dreadful feeling. Suddenly a figure actually appears out of thin air and walks towards them. The ghost is missing his head, but there's somehow no blood. A loud chanting begins as soon as the ghost walks towards them, but this may be prayers from a nearby mosque. Amazingly, the group all appears to have missed the ghost, which explains why they calmly continue to keep exploring. They wouldn't see the apparition until much later, but when they did, they would never forget what was heading straight towards them in that room. Thanks for checking out this video. Be sure to subscribe because I upload a new scary video every Thursday. Or if you're still not convinced, here are some of our other videos that I think you'd like. Enjoy! Chills. Number 7. Skeletor. The Hampton Court Palace in London is home to a well-known apparition named Skeletor, a genderless figure whose identity and intentions remain unknown to this day. In 2003, security guards stormed the palace after their fire alarm system showed a major breach near the exhibit hall. Someone had flung open the fire doors, sounding the alarm. The guards searched the vicinity and found no one to be there. A review of the tape showed the doors opening by themselves. Only blackness filled the doorway, nothing else. The next day, the fire alarm went off again. It was at the same time as before and at the exact same location, just outside of the exhibit hall. When the guards got there, however, they were surprised to find everything was in order. The fire doors were securely shut, and a search turned up nothing out of the ordinary. They reviewed the tape again, expecting to find nothing, but this time they were absolutely baffled by what they saw. On the tape, both of the fire doors burst open, and a pale figure wearing floor-length garments steps into view. The figure stands in the doorway for a moment, seemingly scanning the area, and then closes the doors one at a time. It is impossible to determine the figure's gender, but the sleeves and neck of the outfit seem to be frilly, almost like a medieval tunic, and spectators agree that the figure was dressed as if it were straight out of the 16th century. The security guards weren't the only ones who think they have seen Skeletor. On that very same day, a visitor claims to have seen the figure as well. In fact, she was so startled that she wrote of the sighting in the palace's guest book. On the third day, the fire alarm went off one last time. The guards found nothing. Security footage shows the doors opening with no one behind them. The Hampton Court Palace was home to King Henry VIII, a royal figure famous for suspecting his wives of adultery and witchcraft and putting them to death. Could this ghostly sighting be a past wife of Henry's who could have never let go of her earthly ties? Or was it one of the other tens of thousands of people who died under the king's reign? No one knows for sure, and no one has ever seen Skeletor since. Number 6. Scared Shipless. The USS Hornet is an aircraft carrier that was active from World War II all the way to 1970. Although it has since been converted into a floating maritime museum, that's not enough to negate its dark and sinister past. The Hornet saw extraordinary heavy combat in World War II when the Japanese planes strafed them without mercy at the Midway Islands, bombing them with such an intensity that the crew had to load piping hot ammunition with their bare hands just to keep up with the frantic pace. Below deck, the USS Hornet ran on steam that made the control room over 125 degrees at times. More than one crewman died of heat stroke, or even died from fatal burns after a steam pipe would rupture and melt their skin. Conditions were so bad that suicides were not uncommon from the stress alone. All in all, it is estimated that 300 lives were lost aboard this vessel, and it is legendarily haunted as a result. In 2009, a Coast Guard unit was repainting the USS Hornet's interior. When their paint ran low, one of them ran to find a person who was in charge of distributing more. Alone now, he wandered into a side passage until he saw a fellow Coast Guard about 25 feet ahead. He called out to the man, but instead of turning around, the man completely ignored him and turned a corner. When the Coast Guardsman followed, he found the entrance chained off and the room completely empty. This is one of the many stories of the quote-unquote Dress White's ghost, a sailor who wears his bright white uniform with a vacant look. Some claim he was the captain, but his real identity and fate have never been discovered. On a different day around the same time as the first sighting, two tourists wandered into a section that was clearly off limits. While walking through the debris in abandoned rooms, they saw a uniformed officer walking towards them. They began to profusely apologize for trespassing, but the officer walked by them without making eye contact, instead turning into another room. When they followed him for directions, the room was empty. Number 5. Owner of a broken heart. Sonny Graham was a Georgia man who desperately needed a new heart. In 1995, he was finally scheduled to get one. The donor man was a 33-year-old man named Terry Cottill, who had shot himself to death. The heart transplant was successful and Graham was a new man, in more ways than one, some people would later add. It all started when something inside of Graham demanded to meet Cheryl Cottill, the widow of the donor who had saved his life. When they first met, there was something about Graham's personality that seemed oddly familiar to Cheryl. For example, one day, Graham suddenly developed a new craving for hot dogs and beer that never went away. Hot dogs and beer just so happened to be Terry Cottill's favorite combination. Although Graham was 65 and she was 38, it was as if the two had known each other forever. Their relationship blossomed, and by 2004 they were married. By that same year, however, the relationship seemed to be over already, and Graham did not take the breakup well. In response to getting a divorce, he shot himself in the head, just like Terry Cottill. Was this just a series of strange coincidences that led to two men with the same heart to kill themselves in the exact same way? Or was it Terry's heart, unable to stand losing the same woman twice, that compelled Graham to pull the trigger on that day? Number 4. The Presence. Carissa Glenn, also known as Tish, was only 18 when she learned that a woman had hung herself in the same apartment building that she was moving into. Still, that did not stop the young girl from wanting to move away from her family and become fully independent. Tish had dreams of one day becoming a police officer, and she was already making a decent living as a bartender at the time. This was in the UK, where the legal drinking age is not 21. Upon moving into her new apartment, however, Tish, who her friends and family had described as bubbly and vivacious, appeared to change. Tish began regularly calling her mother to describe a strange quote-unquote presence in her small apartment room, especially at night. She began having vivid dreams about the woman who had killed herself that left her scared and panicking. During the final week before tragedy struck, Tish called her mother no less than 3 separate times to complain of a dreadful feeling that would not go away no matter what she tried to do. Her family pleaded with her to return home, even saying that they would pay all of the costs just so long as she got out of her current living conditions, which were obviously driving her insane. Tish, however, refused to let her parents help. She felt that she could withstand the presence on her own. In the middle of the night, Tish got out of bed and went into her bathroom. She tied a pink scarf around the shower rail and looped it around her neck. Number 3. Confession by Possession. The brutal death of Teresita Basa rattled 1970s Chicago. The 47-year-old woman was found naked in her apartment, tied to a mattress, stabbed in the chest with a steak knife, which was still sticking out of her. Then whoever did this also set her on fire. Aside from missing jewelry, no motive was found. Teresita had no enemies, but many friends. One of them was a co-worker named Remy Chua. Remy was heartbroken over her friend's death, and one day told Teresita's spirit that she would be okay with her friend visiting and explaining what happened. Shortly thereafter, Remy began seeing a man's face wherever she went. She knew it was Teresita's murderer. The visions became more and more intense as they revealed more facts and information to her until she could finally channel her friend at will. When Remy claimed to be possessed by her friend, her husband and a medical doctor were so convinced that he made her tell the police. She filed a police report explaining that a man named Alan Showery had killed Teresita and stolen jewelry after entering her house to fix a television set. The police were most likely unaware that this lead was the result of a spiritual confession, or else they probably would have thrown it out. Still, when they went to speak with Alan Showery, they saw his wife and cousin both wearing Teresita's jewelry. This was enough to get Alan to confess to the grisly murder sometime later. While there are many mysteries surrounding this case, one thing is for sure: if the paranormal world is real, then Teresita's spirit has been finally laid to rest. Number 2. The Devil Visits Germany. Anneliese Michel was a young German woman who inspired the film The Exorcism of Emily Rose. When Anneliese refused to go near a picture of Jesus, saw demonic faces everywhere, and began to smell like death, the local population was sure that she was possessed. As if that weren't enough, she would regularly rip off her clothing, do hundreds of squats at superhuman speeds, and eat spiders and coal. On one occasion, she crawled under a table and growled for 2 days straight, and on another she bit the head off of a dead bird. Exasperated, her family hired an exorcist to perform an ancient ritual from the year 1614, ancient Roman times. He repeated the rites 67 times over her body, sometimes for up to 4 hours at a time. The sessions were recorded for evidence. Anneliese would identify herself as different figures such as Biblical Cain, the evil Roman Emperor Nero, Hitler, and even Lucifer himself. Sometimes the evil figures would even argue with themselves, using her body as a mouthpiece. Unfortunately, the exorcism did not go as planned. Instead of getting the devil out of her body, by 1976, the young girl was dead at the age of 23. She weighed only 67 pounds and had apparently starved to death. Her parents say that she refused to eat in order to atone for the sins of others, but others believe that her body could not survive the hellish possession and perished. Her parents and the priest were all found guilty of negligent manslaughter and spent 6 months in prison. If this infamous case is to be believed, then this is the first time Satan's voice has ever been recorded.
Welches noch?
Und das sag ich Ihnen nicht.
Im Namen Jesu.
Nein! Nein!
Im Namen des Vaters und des Sohnes und des
Ja, deshalb lacht ohne dich!
Stand am Jahre.
Ja, das ist Familie.
Ihr könnt's auch nicht, mach das aus! Scheiß durch, was die doof schreien, Nein! Sie Drecksau, sie verflucht! Das ist unnahbar und grausam ist! Grausam! Sie Drecksau, sie verflucht! Der das ganze Deutschland verführt, oder? Ja, der ist ja noch drin.
Im Namen des dreifaltigen Gottes und aller Todessten Jungfrau Maria, sagt die Wahrheit.
Number 1. Death at the Cecil Hotel. What was going through Elisa Lam's mind during her final hours on this earth is anyone's guess, and these days there are a lot of people guessing. She was staying at the Cecil Hotel when, on her 3rd day there, elevator footage caught her engaging in what could be one of the creepiest paranormal encounters ever recorded. Elisa enters the elevator normally at first, only to begin nearly hitting every button on the left side. She quickly glances down the hall both ways as if she was being trailed by something, hugs the corner, and checks again. She steps in and out of the elevator multiple times in a daze as if she is having conversations with people who cannot be seen. While all of this happens, the elevator does not respond to her button presses, and the doors remain wide open. Even when she presses all of the buttons in a frantic hurry, the elevator still will not close. Only when Eliza wanders away do the doors open and close randomly. Eliza was found dead shortly after. Somehow she had gotten into a water tank located on the roof, even though the Cecil Hotel staff says there were no ways for her to get up there. The door to the roof is locked and protected by an alarm, they say. They also say that Eliza was moved to a different room after her roommates observed strange behavior and no longer felt safe around her. What do you think Eliza saw? Plenty of things happen in the world every day that defy all explanations. From floating cities to demonic wall stains, no one has been able to fully explain these scary videos. Number 11. This homeowner in Montgomery, Texas catches a stranger in distress on their doorbell cam. It's about 3 in the morning when a woman frantically rings the bell at the Sunrise Ranch subdivision. Look again and you'll notice what could be shackles dangling from both of her arms, suggesting this person could have been taken captive and recently freed themselves. The sheriff's department is worried that this woman may have been running for her life and trying to get help from the nearest home. Police released this video in August of 2018 hoping for anonymous tips, but so far no one has come forward with any explanation. As for who this woman is or what happened to her on that fateful night, no one can say for sure. Number 10. A man is keeping an eye on his 2 daughters when he notices a 3rd child watching them from the doorway. The man quickly goes to check on his kids and finds them happily watching TV as if nothing's wrong. There's absolutely no one standing in the doorway watching them from behind the kids' gate, satisfied that everyone is safe. The father returns to the other room and checks the baby monitor again. Sure enough, the figure is standing in the exact same spot as if it never left. And this time you can clearly see one of the children looking straight at it. Apparently this house was built in the 1940s and the family sees this kind of thing quite often, which would explain why the father remains relatively calm instead of running out of the door. Number 9. This 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck Japan years ago. Earthquakes are common in this part of the world, but what happens next is not.
In the distance among the swaying buildings, a bright glow in the night sky, possibly what scientists call an earthquake light.
A bright light burns intensely over the city for nearly 10 full seconds before extinguishing as suddenly as it came. The light appears to have caused no damage and was accompanied by no sound. It does not look like it was caused by a blown-out transformer or any other kind of equipment. Scientists have documented this type of phenomenon before, known only as earthquake lights, but they don't know what causes them. They occur in less than 1% of earthquakes and have been reported for hundreds of years. A handful of theories exist, but a real explanation has never been proven. All we know for sure is that it creates an eerie light show that witnesses will never forget. Number 8. Fausto Perez believes he has forged a spiritual connection with an extraterrestrial. He sets up a camera to demonstrate his capabilities and waits for a response.
Beings in the sky come to me, give me a sign, help me advance to a higher level of consciousness, let me see you.
Less than 10 minutes later, he and his team spot a foreign white square twisting in the wind. This is what he affectionately refers to as a flying carpet, as it's apparently just one of the many regular visitors he receives from the sky. Whatever this square-shaped object is, it has to be absolutely huge to be visible from this far away. Only one of the cameras manages to catch it. Overall, no one can say for sure if this is a real encounter or a mere coincidence. If Fausto is wrong about this extraterrestrial sighting, then I have no idea what it could actually be. Number 7. At first glance, this video looks like an ordinary city surrounded by either pollution or fog, but that's not even close to what's really happening here. One day, the citizens of a Chinese city called Dalian are surprised to find an exact mirror image of their own city hovering over the horizon. This video was taken at Seaport, which means this mirror city is actually floating on the water. I highly doubt this is a real city, so it's probably some sort of optical illusion. With that said, it's not an optical illusion called the Fata Morgana's effect, because as far as I know, that should only affect things that are physically in the water. I have been unable to find a scientific explanation for this event, and I encourage you to share your own theory. Number 6. Chad Beauchamra and his family are enjoying themselves on Lake Michigan when an unexplainable cloud formation leaves them breathless.
Wow, that is so wild.
The long tube-like cloud stretches on for miles, making a creepy twisting motion as it moves on. Scientists have named this a morning glory cloud because they do not have a strong grasp as to why or how it exists. The few people who have seen morning glory clouds often describe feeling incredibly small and unimportant in the moment, a feeling that stays with them for a long time. What causes this remains a mystery. Number 5. Paranormal investigators, specialists, and other field researchers have been trying to explain the Hessdalen lights in Norway for decades. These mysterious lights have been observed by residents since the early 80s. Though sightings have decreased in recent years, these lights still randomly appear from time to time and have attracted many followers. As you can see here, they look like small balls of light in broad daylight with no discernible source. Scientists think that this could be from sulfuric gas bubbles mixing with humid air, though they have not been able to prove this. Other researchers believe this could be a UFO hotspot or even a portal to another world. Number 4. Zach from The Adventures of Zach and Bee is sure that a wild animal is in his attic. It's dark up there, so he takes the camera with him for light. The noise coming from his attic is unlike anything I've ever heard before. It sounds like a baleful combination of scratching, growling, and howling. Zach doesn't bother going any deeper, and I really can't blame him. Unfortunately for him, it sounds like something follows him on the way out.
Something, so let's go ahead. Let's go ahead.
An unseen voice says don't, and I think it also says get out of here too. Obviously, this is a real human voice and not an animal after all, and whoever was making that noise remains a mystery. Number 3. This video shows a phenomenon known as angel hair, in which strands of silk-like threads fall to the ground for several hours at a time. Scientists have tried to explain this as certain species of spiders migrating, though I don't see any spiders in this video at all. Stranger still, angel hair has been reported falling in areas that are freezing and have snow. If this really is due to spiders, then shouldn't there be activity in colder areas? Number 2. No one knows what these strange gel clumps are made of, but it does have a name: star jelly. Star jelly has been collected from all around the world, from Europe to North America, and scientists have been trying to explain what it is for a long time. Originally, they thought it was frog eggs that had absorbed moisture or some other kind of strange fungus. When a DNA test came back as neither plant or animal, they knew they had something truly unique. Now they think this might be some kind of unique space material that makes up plants and meteors, but there's just not enough evidence to know for sure. Worst of all, we don't know what kind of long-term health effects this substance carries, if any. In the meantime, more and more people are spotting star jelly in common places like their front yards, and nobody understands what any of it means. All I know is that an alien-looking substance landing in neighborhoods all over the world hardly sounds like it could be anything good. Before we get to number 1, my name is Chills and I hope you're enjoying my narration. If you're curious about what I look like in real life, then go to my Instagram at DylanIsChillinYT and tap that follow button to find out. I recently released the music video for my song Dreamland, and we may have caught something paranormal at the 55-second mark. Tap the circle icon in the top right corner, then tap my music video and let me know what you think it is. It's a proven fact that generosity makes you a happier person, so if you're generous enough to hit that subscribe button and the bell beside it, then thank you. This way you'll be notified of the new videos I upload every Thursday and Saturday. Number 1. A man named Simon Marshall is shining a flashlight around his room when he highlights a small smear on the wall that makes him feel strange. He He looks closer and sees that the smear strongly resembles a face that is looking down and to the right. I'm not exactly sure, but I think I can see a nose and mouth as well as a large ear and one eye, almost like its head is turned to one side. Tell me if you can see what Simon is talking about here.
Facing the carpet, about a foot off the ground. As soon as the flashlight dimly lit the room, an image appeared on my blinds.
Simon is convinced that the physical representation of a demon has been following him for years. He claims that these orbs taken from a CCTV system is further evidence that he is being harassed, though actual evidence is slim because it somehow keeps getting deleted. What little footage remains has been shared across the world by paranormal investigators, though no clear explanation has ever been given. As such, it continues to be a point of paranormal debate to this day. The following scary leaked videos were never meant to be viewed by the public. With that said, my goal is to analyze these videos and decide if they are an elaborate hoax or truly something to be worried over. Abandoned houses are thought to hold the residual energies of those who once lived inside. In other words, people with troubled lives tend to leave behind troubled spirits in return. The supposed ghosts on this list are rumored to have been driving curious explorers from their homes for years, often sending the trespassers screaming as they flee. Number 11. A YouTuber named Ferris Wheeler is exploring an abandoned house with a friend. The first thing they notice is that the house is covered in flies and that all of the main doors are locked. After poking around some more, they come across the remains of a poor cat who must have gotten trapped inside. It's a depressing scene and definitely not the exciting find that they were hoping for, so they decide to leave. On the way out, however, they unintentionally record something watching them from the shadows. According to Ferris Wheeler, this is the ghost of a child. If you look closely, you can see a short, motionless figure with its face covered by long hair. Then again, this looks like it could be some sort of debris or even a wastebasket. Let me know what you think it is. Number 10. A YouTuber named Spectral Wolfpack Paranormal is checking out an abandoned house in Tennessee that's covered in occult graffiti. It's an unsettling sight for sure, but there's an audio portion of this video that has people talking. No less than 5 people thought they heard something during this part. Let me know if you hear it.
The entrance to hell. The hell.
As soon as he says that this is the entrance to the underworld, some people claim they hear a voice that says stay. I think it sounds like leaves rustling under his shoe as he takes a step back, but let me know if you heard the noise and what you think it was.
The entrance to hell. The entrance to hell.
Number 9. A team of ghost hunters are inside of an abandoned home when they catch what appears to be a transparent phantasm at the top of the stairs.
Hold still for a second. Hello?
I'll admit that I did not see what they were talking about at first, but when you replay the video at half speed, it's easier to see a clear outline of a person's head and shoulders. The figure starts out facing the camera and then darts through a door on the right. I'm not sure if this is CGI or not, but let me know if you can see it, and if so, what you think it was. Number 8. A YouTuber named Jem Parks lost his grandmother over 10 years ago, but her spirit still appears to linger in her old empty property, which his family has maintained ever since her passing. Jem Parks timidly enters the house and crosses the living room, walking by her wooden rocking chair. Doors keep slamming shut wherever he goes. It's almost as if his grandmother wants her privacy, or maybe she is trying to keep him away from something she doesn't want him to see. Then, as Jem Parks turns a corner, he records this. A pale figure peers at him from the darkened doorway on the right. Here it is again if you missed it. The obvious explanation is special effects, but the answer no one, not even Jem Parks, wants to accept is that this could be the twisted incarnation of his grandmother. Number 7. This video starts off on a zoomed in window, almost like they saw something and started recording for proof. The person keeps recording for a while and nothing happens. But then as they zoom out, something peeks out from behind the bars on the right side of the window. If you look closely, you can almost see the outline of a head and possibly some facial features as it presses against the glass. The apparition appears to be tilting its head to the right, almost as if it's regarding the camera with curiosity. Let me know if you see it and if it looks vaguely human to you or not. Number 6. A YouTuber named Nosy is poking around an old abandoned home that is in rough shape. The place is crumbling on all sides and covered in debris. Some sections look like they could collapse at any minute, so he doesn't go too far inside. It's the middle of the day though, with plenty of natural light, so Nosy creeps around the outskirts and even dares to check out a few rooms for a better look. He's having a look through one of the more secure looking rooms on the bottom floor when apparently something notices his presence and starts rushing his way. Nosy wisely retreats out to the nearest exit and cuts his adventuring short for the day. The upstairs was not safe for him to explore, so it's doubtful that someone would live up there, though still possible I suppose. Either way, the footsteps were clearly human and not from an animal, and Nosy was clearly all by himself throughout this video. Therefore, the only other explanation I can come up with, besides a homeless person, is an actual ghost. Whatever it is, Nosy says that he will go back to the house and solve the mystery once and for all. So be sure to check on his channel to see if he ever does. I hope he stays safe and I wish him the best of luck. Number 5. A YouTuber named Alien6467 and a friend are heading down a long stretch of country road in Southwood, New York, when an abandoned White House on the side of the road catches their attention. Something feels odd about this house, so they decide to get out and start exploring. The first thing the two of them notice is a room with #vengeance scrawled across the wall in big green letters. Under this word are dozens of bags that inexplainably contain only a single coin. After a bit of searching, they find a loose floor panel nearby and start pulling out more Ziploc bags containing single coins. The strange feeling gets even stronger after this discovery and they decide to leave. When filming the house for one last time, they see that they are no longer alone, nor were they ever to begin with. A mysterious black silhouette watches them from above without sound, but I guess it could just be a prank. I mean, they were just inside of that room. So maybe Alien6467 went up there again and pretended to be a ghost for the final shot. Then again, it could even have been somebody who was squatting in the house. The coins might have been a calling card, each one representing a previous victim. Number 4. A man is videotaping an abandoned home from above when he catches what could be something paranormal as it dashes away. A misty black cloud snakes along the wall and trails off into the abandoned house, veering out of sight. The cameraman zooms in for a better look but finds nothing. I think this appears to be CGI, but the way the cameraman behaves makes me think that it could be real. He stays focused on the spot for a little bit, then draws back and studies the entire area for more activity. He doesn't immediately stop recording like most videos. Number 3. A group of friends are roaming around an old English house that's rumored to be quite haunted. Unlike most of the other videos on this list, they are able to get upstairs and quickly start opening every door they can find. Then they come across one door in particular that they swear they've already opened before.
Oi, what the I swear that door was open. That door was actually a man's grave. Open it. That's all usual.
I studied this video for a while, and I can say that this door was definitely open before. When they open the door here at 11 minutes 27 seconds, you can see a circuit box with a yellow sticker in the bottom corner of the room. You can briefly see the same circuit box here at 8 minutes 14 seconds. This means that the door was definitely open just 3 minutes earlier. They aren't sure what to make of this discovery and decide to run away. Maybe they were faking surprise. Or maybe one of the friends closed the door as a prank, but something tells me that this was probably paranormal. Let me know if you agree. Number 2, a YouTuber named IN7 and a large group of friends decide to investigate an abandoned home for some possible paranormal activity. They didn't find anything that strange on the first floor, aside from some mattresses, so they decide to go up a flight of rickety steps that looks far from safe. Some laughter stops them in their tracks. They start to run, but then find confidence in numbers and decide to keep going anyway. When they get to the top floor, they find more mattresses. One of the mattresses has a human-looking figure on it with black sheets pulled above the head. Suddenly, some other kids rejoin the group to warn them of more people. They hear laughter again and bolt down the steps, out of the house. The laughter sounds distant yet somehow all around them. If it's not editing, then it's definitely paranormal. The group will never know if the person laying on the mattress was just sleeping or not alive. They could have stumbled upon some ritual sacrifice for all we know. Before we get to number 1, my name is Chills and I hope you're enjoying my narration. If you're curious about what I look like in real life, then go to my Instagram at DylanIsChillinYT and tap that follow button to find out. I'm currently doing a super poll on my Instagram. If you believe ghosts are real, then go to my most recent photo and tap the like button. If you don't, DM me saying why. When you're done, come right back to this video to find out the number 1 entry. Also, follow me on Twitter at YTChills because that's where I post video updates. It's a proven fact that generosity makes you a happier person. So if you're generous enough to hit that subscribe button and the bell beside it, then thank you. This way you'll be notified of the new videos I upload every Thursday and Sunday. Number 1. 2 friends are wandering across a field to check out an old abandoned house that they are both excited about. I'm not sure, but I think they found this house at night and wanted to come back during the day. Anyway, they find that the house is mostly intact aside from a collapsing roof and decaying debris everywhere. They are just having a casual conversation when suddenly their camera chances upon something totally out of the ordinary.
Glass. The oven. The oven door.
Where?
In the middle of the living room.
The roof is off. Holy sh**! Dude! Oh my! Go!
A completely black figure glides across the doorway from above. What's especially strange is that every square inch of this figure is pitch black even though they are in a room lit by sunlight. It is turned to the side with its head down, but absolutely no facial features are visible. The 2 friends both turn and run away from the shadowy inhabitant at full speed. I guess they could have a third person with them and just be playing a prank, but their reaction seems a little too genuine for me to think that it is fake. Similarly, if this was just a homeless person upstairs, then they probably would have shouted something like "get out" instead of silently walking across the doorway. Many people think that this is a shadow person, and I think that's a definite possibility. Drones allow us to explore areas that we would otherwise never dare step foot in, and as they fly through the sky high above, they sometimes catch things that were never meant to be witnessed by the human eye. Highways have long been a classic setting for the supernatural. After all, one wrong move can easily transform the next exit into your own personal dead end. Number 14. This one took me a few tries before I could see what they were talking about. Watch the shoulder lane on the left, and soon you'll see the shadowy outline of a mysterious figure.
Is that a person?
I have little doubt that this video is real and not edited, so the question becomes whether or not this was an actual spirit. Notice how the figure is devoid of all features, a strong sign of the paranormal, and maybe it's just because they are passing by at a high rate of speed, but I can almost see right through them. The entire lower half of their body is practically invisible. Number 13. This dashcam video shows traffic moving normally across 4 unobstructed lanes, when out of nowhere a woman appears in front of a black pickup truck. She keeps walking to the other side like nothing is wrong. The black pickup truck definitely hits its brakes, and the car behind them does so as well, which seems like a realistic response. Then again, there's clearly a red stoplight up ahead, so maybe they were braking for that instead. I don't know why this video is void of color. I'm assuming it's because black and white video would take up less space on the dashcam memory card, but it's safe to say that only a ghost would be able to do what this woman does. Number 12. 2 friends are riding down the Kerala Highway in India when they see what they later agree has to have been a ghost of some kind. The figure is dressed in pure white and holding something, maybe a flashlight. Creepiest of all is how they seem to be deeply staring into the darkness at something. They are in such a deep state of concentration that they don't even look up when the car zooms by just a few feet away. They remain frozen in place and seem to be holding their face in surprise. If this is a ghost, then they could have been looking at the roadside remains of their own body. Number 11. This driver records a potentially supernatural highway encounter that leaves him speechless and terrified. According to the driver, this person was missing their head. Look again and you'll see it does look like they have no head, but it's probably just the way the headlights overpower the camera. There's just one thing though. Even when they do get past the headlights, it still appears as if there is nothing above their shoulders. Number 10. A group of friends are heading down the road. When they think they see something in the distance, they silently observe a small figure standing motionless just barely within sight. Listen to this part and translate if you can. Finally, they decide to take their chances and barrel past. Look closely and you'll see that the highway phantom is cloaked in a single white sheet. The stranger remains motionless as the bike passes, not even putting their hands up to protect themselves. This bizarrely calm reaction is not ordinary. It makes me think that this was in fact a real highway ghost encounter. Number 9. This scary highway encounter would have easily gone unnoticed forever, if not for a dashcam recording. Pay attention to the bottom right and you'll see a blurry figure slip under the car in a matter of seconds. Pause the video and you'll see the undeniable outline of a girl from the waist up. She appears to be wearing a white dress and staring ahead with a gray face. I guess this could be light reflecting off of the pavement, but this also really does look like the outline of a person who was once living. Maybe every so often they appear in the exact same location where they sadly lost their life years ago. Number 8. This driver and his friend both spot something strange while driving in Davidson, Maryland. They claim that this is a large black mass. I don't see anything during this first part, but let me know if you do.
Here, get out of here. Back up, now, back.
I definitely see something here though, and I'll even highlight it for you.
There it is again. I see it. Get out of here. Go. Go, go, go.
What's crazy is how the object mysteriously disappears in less than a second. Based on how fast they speed away, I have little doubt that this video is absolutely real, and they felt like their lives were at risk. Number 7. A man is driving down a haunted road in Hawaii when he sees a pale beige orb on the left side of his camera.
No idea what that is on my screen. It looks like a ball of light on the left.
I thought it was just his finger until I realized it was semi-transparent and slightly changing shape.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. I have no clue. There's nothing there.
Watch this part and you'll see there's no way that this is his thumb. His passenger points at something on the side of the right, and their hand actually appears in front of the orb. The weird circle continues to hover in the corner for a full 3 minutes. It does not fade or go away even when they pull over, turn off the lights, and step out of the car into darkness.
It's still there. It's moving. It's still on the left. And I don't know what that is.
If you have any idea how an orb could stay so plainly visible even without a light source, then let me know because I am honestly stumped. Number 6. 2 friends are driving down a quiet stretch of California highway when they notice a man dressed in all black is standing in their lane with his back turned to them. What's weird is how he is standing on a well-lit highway close to the street lamps, yet not a single detail is visible. It's easy to see everything that's around him, but even the headlights of oncoming traffic are not enough to illuminate him whatsoever. I do agree with the uploader that this is strange, but I'm not sure if this means he is a spirit or not. Let me know if you think this was just a broken down motorist or an actual shadow person. Number 5. Rob Davies and Chris Felton are driving down the A696 highway in the UK when they see this weird figure flagging them down in the middle of the night. The video is too grainy for me to tell for sure, but they claim that this person was wearing an old baggy Royal Air Force uniform from the 1940s. I guess it does somewhat resemble a one-piece jumpsuit from that time. When Rob and Chris double back to pick up the stranger, he is gone. Rob returns home that night and does some research. As it turns out, a Royal Air Force plane lost control around a place called Middleton Farm in 1943. Coincidentally, that is exactly the same location where this video was supposedly recorded. Number 4. This Ukrainian dashcam captures one of the highest resolution highway ghost encounters I have ever seen. Watch this part and tell me what is being said here if possible. I would really like to have a legitimate translation of this potentially supernatural message. The driver speeds off after she falls back and disappears, and does not stop until they are back to civilization. This professional quality of this video makes me wonder if this is from a European movie or television show. If not, it almost looks like a well-constructed hologram. I could find no other source for this video, so be sure to let me know if this is amateur footage or something from mainstream media. Number 3. A photographer pulls his car over just outside of the Dera War Fort in the Pakistani desert. He keeps his dash cam running as he adjusts his camera equipment to get a better shot. While he is busy snapping pictures, a mysterious shadowy figure hurries down the road. No other cars or people are around for miles, and there's no reason for someone to be walking this great distance by themselves. They get towards the end of the road and quietly disappear, which leaves only 2 possible explanations. Either this was a real highway ghost encounter or just video editing. Number 2. A man is riding down a poorly lit Indian highway when they barely avoid a pedestrian who is staggering in the middle of the road. Yet when he turns around seconds later, the man is nowhere to be found. Now he is determined to find the man again. He turns back around and retraces his steps for almost a full minute. Then he realizes he's all gone, grows extremely uncomfortable, and speeds away. The only non-paranormal explanation I have is that maybe the pedestrian got scared and hid when he saw the motorcycle turn back around. Let me know if you think that's what happened, or if this was a genuine highway ghost encounter. Before we get to number 1, my name is Chills and I hope you're enjoying my narration. If you're curious about what I look like in real life, then go to my Instagram at DylanIsChillinYT and tap that follow button to find out. I recently released a new song called Dreamland. Please let me know if you think my music is improving or not. Tap the circle icon in the top right corner, then tap my new song to give it a listen. It's a proven fact that generosity makes you a happier person, so if you're generous enough to hit that subscribe button and the bell beside it, then thank you. This way you'll be notified of the new videos I upload every Thursday and Saturday. Number 1. This video, taken in Beijing, China, shows an unsuspecting group stumble across a woman lying collapsed in a crosswalk. They quickly rush out to check on her. Someone has already translated the video in the original comments section, so I can tell you what is being said here. First, they try to call the police, but none of their phones work, almost like they are being jammed by an electric disturbance. She isn't having much problem talking to them, but they eventually ask her to look directly at them so they can make sure she is alright. The woman tilts her head back and her eyes turn black and large. One of them lets out a scream and turns around. When they turn back around to film some more, the woman is nowhere to be found. This video does kind of feel like it could be a low-budget horror movie, but at the same time there is something about the way they react to finding her that seems very real. A lot of YouTubers make a name for themselves by constantly making the most extreme content they can think of. This doesn't always go as planned, and every once in a while you'll come across a video where they just barely survive.
Do you remember when we woke up?
Not really.
Already felt like I had had enough.
Oh, why?
We hadn't played survival in a month.
Then you said,
why don't we try hard?
What?
You set up the IP and then you say,
come join me.
We found obsidian in like a day,
cause we're so
freaking good at surviving in this game.
But then we
built a portal, the noises they aren't cool. We went to light it up last night, but this time I'm scared of just walking through. We are never ever ever going to the nether. We are never ever ever going to the nether. I heard there were pigmen and lots of souls, and this slows you down. So we are never ever 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 going to the nether.
Say, do you think they have Christmas in the nether?
You say I'm being stupid and let's try
not to die.
You're going through the purple late at night,
and you try
making up excuses all the time. But you just,
there's too many creepers out here, just go through the damn thing.
We went to light it up last night, but this time I'm scared of just walking through. We are never ever ever going to the nether. We are never ever ever going to the nether. I heard there were pigmen and lots of souls, and this slows you down. So we are never ever 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 going to the nether.
So we got to the other side of the portal and it was just rubbish. We pretty much died straight away with that stupid white thing flopping around in the air, spitting at us, making things explode. I mean, the lack of creepers is pretty cool, but and there's a glowstone on the ceiling, but of course you can't get to it, so not much use. And what the hell does Netherrack do anyway? This is crap.
We are never ever ever going to the nether. We are never ever ever going to the nether. I heard there were big men and lots of souls, and this slows you down. So we are never, ever, ever, ever going to the nether. I said never, ever, ever go to the nether. We should have never, ever, ever going to the nether. I hate the color purple and the noises freak me out. So we are never, ever, ever again going to the nether.
Cup of tea, anyone?
This time, I'm scared of just walking through. We are never, ever, ever going to the nether. We are never, ever, ever going to the nether. I heard there were big men and lots of souls, and this slows you down. So we are never, ever, ever, ever going to the nether.
So we got to the other side of the portal and it was just rubbish. We pretty much died straight away with that stupid white thing flopping around in the air, spitting at us, making things explode. I mean, the lack of creepers is pretty cool, and there's a glowstone on the ceiling, but of course you can't get to it, so it's not much use. And what the hell does netherrack?
Number 15, Burger King foot lettuce. The last thing you'd want in your Burger King burger is someone's foot fungus, but as it turns out, that might be what you get. A 4chaner uploaded a photo anonymously to the site showcasing his feet in a plastic bin of lettuce with the statement, "This is the lettuce you eat at Burger King." Admittedly, he had shoes on, but that's even worse. The post went live at 11:38 p.m. on July 16, and a mere 20 minutes later, the Burger King in question was alerted to the rogue employee. At least, I hope he's rogue. How did it happen? Well, the BK employee hadn't removed the EXIF data from the uploaded photo, which suggested the culprit was somewhere in Mayfield Heights, Ohio. This was at 11:47. 3 minutes later, at 11:50, the Burger King branch address was posted with wishes of happy unemployment. 5 minutes later, the news station was contacted by another 4chaner, and 3 minutes later, at 11:58, a link was posted, BK's Tell Us About Us online form. The foot photo, otherwise known as Exhibit A, was attached. Cleveland Scene magazine contacted